recently we thought it was a legend due to some mishaps. Hey, John, what is that?
Parks. What isn't there to love? They're great to look at. There's usually cool activities. Some of them house volcanoes that could end the entire world as we know it. But anyways, if you recall, many videos ago, we talked about the series White Stag Education, which appeared to be normal videos about this national park. However, sinister secrets hid within the woods. All this to say that I've been recommended a separate horror series that heavily reminds me of the analog horror White Stag, and I for one am quite excited. This time around, we are being taken to the Woodlands National Park, and I'm sure everything is going to go just fine on our trip. Now I'll admit, I'm not the biggest park fan. You get to see the nice sights, and that's kind of it. I've been to the Grand Canyon and a few others, and I'd say it's a good hour's journey looking at everything before I'm ready to head out. But the existence of them is certainly appreciated. Now when it comes to the Woodlands National Park, well, I'm not too sure. Depends on if I'm going to have to sleep with one eye open in my tent the whole time. The series is created by Buddy Films and seems to have garnered a ton of traction since its conception, which is awesome to see, so I'm surprised it's taken this long for me to even hear of its existence. As always, be sure to check out the original series before jumping into the 4+ RV to head to the park as a group. In today's video, we will be covering the first 5 tapes out of the Woodlands National Park series. And before you pull out the pitchforks, the next 5 will then be covered next Sunday. So without further ado, let's make sure we have everything we need to survive the wilderness, and whatever horrors that may be lurking around as well. Got everything? Alright, it's a bit of a drive to the Woodlands National Park.
But before I let you get too far, just wanted to say if you're new here and enjoy what you're watching, be sure to hit all those neat buttons down below as it really helps support the channel. And if you want to see more, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Letterboxd. Alright, now you can pass through.
The most dangerous national park in the USA. Tape 1. The first thing we are met with is this nice little opening for the park tape, and we are introduced to Park Ranger Steve and Alex. What's immediately odd is when Steve goes to say where the park is located, as the screen glitches and his audio cuts out before he can finish. We then cut to this blank park brochure, and sure enough at the bottom, the state the park is located in is oddly blurred. At least I doubt anyone can read this. We then begin to go through the brochure, and find ourselves on the park information page. We read that the Woodlands National Park was designated as a national monument in 1912 and made an official national park in 1939. And apparently the park contains many anomalous creatures, plants, and entities. Alright, I think it's time to turn the car around. We then return to our good friends Ranger Steve and Alex, and they proceed to tell us about these informational videos that exist in the visitor centers. These videos include stuff about the park locations, and the usual crazy animals that will supposedly give us nightmares. To which we then immediately encounter one, it seems.
And crazy animals that will give you nightmares.
After that nightmare, we are met with this image of the woods at night, with red text that appears that just says he's standing right there. I don't see anything. We are then shown very briefly another glitchy frame, but it's hard to make anything out from it. We then return once again to our rangers, and Alex reminds us that these tapes are at the visitor centers. Apparently it works like some of those systems where you go up and press a button. Then the informational video plays talking about the certain topic. These videos cover a wide array of topics ranging from walkers, weather, trail locations, you name it. All the usual things you'd expect at a park. Except for walkers. That certainly stands out. Do you mean like the hikers? I at least hope so. The 2 rangers then walk into frame and end off the information tape, and nothing else really crazy happens in this tape before it ends. I will say this was definitely a good first tape as it managed to establish its setting and leave me intrigued and wanting to find out more, even though I may find myself regretting that decision later. Park Ranger admits to the existence of Wendigos. Tape 2. Just like the first tape, we open up on our classic Woodlands logo, and once again we are met with Ranger Steve, and we get right to it as he is here to tell us about the Wendigo. According to Steve, it was once thought to be just a legend, but that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Before Steve can go too much further, we end up cutting to some footage that appears to be the discovery of these creatures. From the looks of it, they stumbled upon a human body that was missing their legs, and there were clear signs of drag marks. How this immediately led to the conclusion of Wendigo? Who's to say? But as of now, they have been discovered to really exist. We are then told that if we want to learn a bit more about the Wendigos, we can visit a center and pick up a pamphlet. And I don't know about you, but I think I'd be getting the fuck out of this park. But it's time for Steve to inform us on what to do if we encounter one. I guess it's always best to be prepared. The first tip is to not run, as he says they love it when you run. However, our footage ends up cutting him off as it looks like we are brought to the POV of someone running. Bad move. Another reason that we are told not to run is the fact that they can reach speeds of 45 miles per hour, which is actually nuts. However, our footage then ends up completely cutting out, and we are brought back to the park brochure. We end up finding ourselves on the Wendigo page, and we end up learning some of the basic facts. First discovered by the Native Americans in the northern regions of the US, the Wendigo is a flesh-eating monster and has been observed running up to 45 miles per hour. To successfully kill a Wendigo, the heart must be removed.
Through the heart.
Ranger Steve then returns and tells us the best course of action is to slowly back away, making sure not to step on anything that makes too much noise. But then once we are far enough away, we are told to speed it up a bit to a visitor center or an officer. This is so they can be made aware of the creature and they can then take the necessary precautions to close off the area. But then, one decides to pay our fellow rangers a visit. Steve notices the Wendigo standing behind John, our cameraman, and then they proceed to immediately break the first rule of a Wendigo encounter.
John, we gotta go. John, we gotta go.
Or John. Something I feel I should point out is that it's really cool that the Wendigo so far has been a real handmade prop. It makes me very excited to see what else they can do in these future tapes, as I'd love to get to see some more looks at this design. But so far it's clear that this park has got a lot going on within, and the Rangers are completely aware of it, which I guess is a good thing that they aren't relying on the job listing, unless it's like White Stag where once you're hired, it's for life. 45-foot tall cryptid in Woodlands National Park. Tape 3. This time it appears that Ranger Alex will be taking over the information tape. I really hope nothing bad happened to Steve. However, before we can get into what the informational tape is about, Alex has some bad news for us. Apparently, Dead Man's Trail is closed until further notice. Damn, but I imagine there is some good reason for it, like Ranger John getting mauled to death. Sure enough, we are asked to respect the privacy of the victim, and we are shown again the Wendigo from before. But once again, we are told to check out the visitor center as the one on the south side of the park has now opened up. I don't know about you, but there is certainly something fishy going on here. Why is there even an open visitable Why is there even an open visitable national park where there are these dangerous cryptids and creatures ready to tear you apart? Perhaps that's what they want. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of sacrificial ritual at play here behind the scenes. But anyways, Ranger Alex goes on to talk about the subject of this tape. Apparently, there has been an increased report of walkers roaming around the park. I knew there was something odd about that term. And since for some reason this news isn't enough for people to never come back to this park again, we have to learn about what they are and how to be safe against them. To make matters even better, walkers are exclusive to the national park. They aren't found anywhere else. Again, why did we choose this park to visit? It's said that walkers were once thought to be invisible, almost spectral-like creatures, but now, due to the advancements in thermal technology, we have been able to visualize a walker for the first time, and are actually able to get somewhat of a grasp on how this creature operates. It's said that it is invisible to the naked eye due to how dark it is, as in it absorbs all the light around it and manages to make itself invisible. It sort of reminds me of the color Vanta Black, except at least we can technically see that. Our next scene, however, takes us back to that familiar dark forest setting, with the red text claiming that he's standing right there. And now it has hit me that we have been being watched by a walker this whole time in this setting. It's right there, we just can't see it. We are reminded that the only way to see one of these things is with thermal tech, and it is apparently reported that these things can get to 12 to 45 feet tall. That's quite the gap, alongside long legs and short torsos. Our footage then glitches out, and once again we are brought to our handy-dandy brochure and flip to the walkers page. It said that walkers are mysterious creatures that are completely invisible to the naked eye due to their incredibly dark skin that absorbs all visible light. We currently have no explanation for where they come from. They are estimated to be anywhere from 12 to 45 feet in height. Walkers are capable of producing high levels of radio waves from their bodies. This will cause any radio in the immediate area to produce static. This is theorized to be some sort of language to the walkers, but efforts to decipher the signals have been unsuccessful. Park Ranger Alex then returns to tell us that even though there are these horrifying cryptids walking amongst the park, staying in the designated campsite will ensure your safety. Yeah, okay pal. He claims that the area being well lit and walled off keeps the walkers, and even all creatures, away. We are then told to keep our campfire lit even throughout the night. It's supposedly our last line of defense if one of these things decides to go after us. The next bit of advice we get is that if our radio starts to emit static, to say the phrase "Ranger, Ranger," and if a park ranger does not respond, then it's a walker trying to trick you. Our camera then cuts out and we are brought to the scene in front of the campfire, and sure enough, our little radio starts to go off. Ranger Alex then returns and once again reminds us about the damn visitor center before the tape ends. So far, this series has definitely had me questioning what in the world could be going on here. These rangers seem way too calm and collected whenever they are talking about what should be horrific creatures. Something is going wrong here, and I definitely believe this park is not a place anyone should be visiting, no matter how much they say it's safe. First Wendigos, and now these 45-foot tall walkers? Yeah, no thanks. The Dyer Corporation hunts down Wendigo. Tape 4. As per usual, our Woodlands logo begins to open, except this time things are quickly different. Our logo glitches out and we are met with a new one, the Dyer Corporation. We get the usual warning screen where the footage we are about to see is highly classified, but we got the credentials. We read that on June 3rd, 1975, the Dyer Corporation received a call from Woodlands National Park regarding the recent death of one of their production staff, John Stewart. Footage recovered from the scene revealed that the cause of death was an encounter with a Wendigo. Within 15 hours of John's death, Dyer Corps' private military group, Task Force Delta, arrived on the scene. They were tasked with tracking down the creature and exterminating it. The team consisted of an expert tracker, 2 weapon specialists, and a cameraman to document the entire mission. We are then shown a map of the park, and we learn that the expedition started at the site of John's death, to which they followed the creature's trail to the riverbank. The footage glitches out, and we are then brought to the mission. We see as our crew makes their way through the woods, and after a bit of moving along the trail, we cut back to our map, and learn that the men ended up setting up camp for the night at the halfway point. We then learn that on the second day, an off-trail campsite was discovered about 63 miles off Dead Man's Trail. We return to our found footage and watch as our crew makes their way to the campsite. Finally, it looks like people who know what they're up against. Once we reach the campsite, our crew strategically heads in to make sure the area is clear. Our cameraman then approaches one of the tents, and it's clear whoever was in here did not have a good time. Once one of the men go up to check the campfire, it's clear that something has been watching them.
It's warm.
The cameraman's footage begins to glitch out, and we are then met with text that tells us the team held their position until the night rolled around. We then return to our found footage and can see that things have definitely gotten more intense. The stakes are high as there's definitely something nearby. One of the men claims that the area is clear, but very quickly learns that it isn't.
I think we're clear. Wait. Contact!
The group runs towards the sound of the gunfire, and our poor cameraman ends up left on his own. He runs into the tent to hide and zips it closed. And sure enough, well, I'll let you see for yourself. Our cameraman miraculously gets saved by one of the soldiers, and it's back to running through the woods. You know, the one thing we were told not to do. As we run through the woods, the footage slowly cuts out and we are again met with the company logo before this tape ends. This tape was incredible, and I am so glad we got it. Don't get me wrong, I love the cheesiness of the informational tapes, but once we got to this one, it was all business and no games. This was a serious mission to hunt down the Wendigo that took out poor John. And man, the way they have created the Wendigo and know just how much to show and not show is amazing. If I wasn't hooked before, I definitely am now. National Park hosts memorial service for man eaten by Wendigo. Tape 5. We open up to the logo as usual, but this time we are shown once again the incident with John, where he gets brutally attacked and eaten by a Wendigo. Except this time we end up listening in on the radio call between Ranger Steve and Alex, as Steve runs for his life away from the Wendigo. Breaking rule number 1, by the way. But who's gonna blame him? We can hear during the call Steve frantically explaining the situation to Alex, John being eaten alive and everything. It's actually quite unfortunate that Steve had to hear all that as he runs off, and we can even hear that the Wendigo is now after Steve.
Hurry, Alex! Hurry! It's eating him! I can hear it! It's coming for me! Oh God, it's coming for me! Oh God, Steve, please, just keep running, please! Well, the first thing you should do is never run. They love it when you...
Alex sends someone out to help, and Steve barely makes it to the ranger, who manages to fire at the Wendigo and scare it away. Steve barely got away this time. However, our next segment has Rangers Steve and Alex once again to commemorate John, thanking everyone who made it to his memorial service. Yet it seems like the emotions begin to take over Steve, as he takes off his hat and walks off. Alex notices something is off and asks if he is doing alright, to which Steve begins to spill his true feelings, talking about how he is tired of it all, and it appears working at the park is taking its toll. However, Alex then ends up revealing quite the haunting information.
I want to break too, man, but we got to get this video out. You got the memo just as well as I did. The death quota's already too high. We're not even...
It sounds like they got the memo and this video had to be done. And apparently the death quota is already too high, and they aren't halfway through the year yet. How many people are actually dying here? But it sounds like if this were to be discovered, the park would get shut down. Which, good. But I guess Steve and Alex care about it too much. But then, someone ends up radioing to Steve, and tells him that John's wife has shown up out of nowhere and is asking a lot of questions. This info puts Steve and Alex into high alert as they shut the camera off and begin to run towards the ranger station where John's wife is at. We then end up listening in on another conversation between John's wife and some random higher-up that works at the park, trying to make her sign a contract and accept some amount of money. However, she isn't buying any of it, accusing them of trying to hide something, even going so far as accusing them of not caring about John at all. It even sounds like they told her that John was killed by a bear, yet she ends up dropping the bomb that John had told her what was going on at the park. So she's rightfully suspicious to think that they are lying to her. And I mean, they are. She starts calling them out for covering up the amount of deaths that occur at the park. But it sounds like she may have been talking a bit too much, as our guy on the other end begins to hint at a threat if she doesn't stop talking. But then out of the blue, Ranger Steve can be heard running into the room and kicking out whoever this asshole was. We learn that John's wife is named Nancy, and she is now being urged by Steve to sign the NDA. Steve clearly also doesn't want Nancy to keep talking, as it sounds like someone could be listening in.
Please tell me what happened to John.
Please, Nancy, you can't be talking about this right now. I don't know who's listening.
Because of this, Steve ends up writing down on a piece of paper what really happened to John. And to be expected, Nancy is shocked and upset, but she manages to keep her cool and not say anything too telling to whoever may be listening. Steve urges her again to sign the agreement, and warns her that these higher-ups are really dangerous, and that if she wants to keep her family safe, she should keep quiet, take the money, and move far away. Steve tells her to call if she needs anything, before this tape ends. I knew something incredibly fishy was happening behind the scenes, but then again, who didn't? The big question on my mind currently is why this park continues to operate. Is it for monetary reasons? Sacrificial ones? It's clear they don't want the public to know about the amount of deaths, but they aren't that secretive about the creatures that live in the park. I mean, they have them in the brochures for you to read about, unless Steve and Alex are making these videos under the table to warn people. I think it's possible that this is some kind of Jurassic Park-like attraction, but Nancy makes it seem like the public doesn't know about these creatures at all. Perhaps they know about some of these creatures, but not all, and think that even though they do exist, the Woodlands National Park is still safe enough to visit, even though it isn't. But if the people knew the park wasn't safe, then no one would go. Hopefully. Who's to say, but I'm very curious and excited to see what the second half of this series has in store for us. But unfortunately, that's going to have to wait until next week. I am glad that we were able to get into the switch up in this half, however, as my anticipation for next week is now through the roof, as I need to know what happened. However, that'll be about it for this week's video. Be sure to be on the lookout next week for when we cover the second half of Woodlands National Park, to which we will hopefully get justice for John. As always, be sure to keep leaving me recommendations down below, whether it be in the YouTube comments or the community Discord, where just like walkers, you can't see me, but I'm there. But if you'll excuse me, I had a whole trip to this park planned, but now I'm thinking of finding a new vacation spot.